The 30th of January, 1933. Adolf Hitler is appointed Chancellor of Germany, bringing an end to German democracy. Guided by racist and authoritarian ideas, the Nazis abolish basic freedoms and seek to create a community which would unite all social classes and regions of Germany behind one Führer. The Third Reich quickly becomes a police state, where individuals are subject to arbitrary arrest and imprisonment. The Nazis effectively use propaganda to win the support of millions of Germans to facilitate persecution, war, and ultimately genocide. There is, however, some German opposition to the Nazi state, but critics of the Nazi regime would often pay the ultimate price for their defiance of the Führer. One of them is Liane Berkowitz. Liane Viktorovna Berkowitz was born on the 7th of August 1923 in Berlin, then part of the Weimar Republic, which was the name given to the German government from 1918 to 1933. Liane was the daughter of Viktor Vassiliev, a concertmaster and conductor, and his wife Katerina Yevzhenko, an opera singer and vocal teacher. The family had fled from the Soviet Union to Berlin in 1923, shortly before Liane was born. After her husband's death, Liane's mother remarried Henry Berkowitz, who quickly adopted Liane. After Adolf Hitler became Chancellor of Germany in January 1933, he also relied on terror to achieve his goals. Lured by the wages, a feeling of comradeship, and the striking uniforms, tens of thousands of young jobless men put on the brown shirts and high leather boots of the Nazi stormtroopers. Called the SA, these auxiliary policemen, as well as Gestapo agents, went from door to door looking for Hitler's enemies. Socialists, communists, trade union leaders, and others who had spoken out against the Nazi Party were arrested, and some were killed. By the middle of 1933, the Nazi Party was the only political party, and nearly all organized opposition to the regime had been eliminated. Democracy was dead in Germany. The Second World War began on the 1st of September 1939. As early as the mid-1930s, groups of friends started gathering in Berlin, and Arvid Harnack, a top official in the Reich Ministry of Economics, and his wife Mildred, along with a left-wing German publicist and Luftwaffe officer Harro Schulze-Boysen and his wife Libertas, were at the center of these circles. By 1941, they had formed a loose network of 7 resistance groups in Berlin. These groups brought together over 150 people who opposed the Nazis, including students, artists, journalists, and government workers, many of whom were women. Their fight against National Socialism took many forms. They helped Jews and resistance fighters escape, recorded the Nazis' crimes, and shared military secrets with the Allies, including a warning about Operation Barbarossa, the code name for the Nazi invasion of the Soviet Union, which began on the 22nd of June, 1941. Starting in 1941, Liane Berkowitz prepared for her high school diploma at Heilsche Evening School in Berlin. The school fostered an open and liberal atmosphere, attracting a circle of students and intellectuals who were critical of Nazi rule. Liane was youthful, proactive, and cherished freedom. Proficient in both German and Russian, she keenly followed events in the Soviet Union due to her heritage. Liane constantly challenged the broad condemnation in Nazi propaganda that painted Russia as synonymous with the Bolshevik Soviet Union. In 1941, Liane got engaged to Friedrich Remmer, whom she had met at Heilsche Evening School. Later that year, Friedrich was drafted into the military, fought on the Eastern Front, and came back to Berlin with a severe leg injury. When he returned, he remarked, "Hitler will lose this war, and with it, the Third Reich." While at school, Liane joined a group of friends centered around her classmate, Eva Rittmeister, and her husband John Rittmeister. The group evolved into a circle of people opposed to Hitler, eventually collaborating with a previously mentioned Harro Schulze-Boysen in the resistance group called the Red Orchestra against the Nazi regime. This term was used by the Abwehr, the German military intelligence service, to combine various resistance networks in Germany, Belgium, and France. In May 1942, Josef Goebbels, the Nazi Minister of Propaganda, held an exhibition with the ironic name of the Soviet Paradise at the Berlin Lustgarten, a public park which under the Nazis was converted into a site for mass rallies and propaganda events, organized by the Nazi Party. The exhibition displayed images targeting Soviet partisans, showing firing squads and the bodies of young girls, some of them children, hanging from ropes. Goebbels intended to use the exhibition to justify Germany's invasion of the Soviet Union to the German people. Liane Berkowitz wanted to protest against the exhibition, and together with Otto Gollnau, her friend from the Heilsche Evening School, posted about 100 adhesive stickers saying, "Permanent exhibition, Nazi paradise, war, hunger, lies, Gestapo. How much longer?" They posted the stickers on the evening of the 17th of May, 1942, in the busy area of Berlin out of protest, but also wanted to show that anti-National Socialist resistance in Germany was still active. In the summer of 1942, the Gestapo, the Nazi secret police, discovered the resistance organization centered around Harnack and Schulze-Boysen. In late June 1942, a blunder by Soviet intelligence exposed a Funkabwehr, the Nazi radio counterintelligence organization responsible for the monitoring of illicit broadcasts, the names and addresses of the founding members of the Red Orchestra. In August 1942, Schulze-Boysen was arrested along with many close friends, including the Harnacks. As Schulze-Boysen belonged to the Luftwaffe, and both he and Harnack had tried to warn the Soviet Union of the impending war before 1941, the prisoners were charged before the Reich Military Court. More than 50 members of the Red Orchestra, including several students from the evening school, were sentenced to death. Liane was 3 months pregnant when she was arrested by the Gestapo on the 26th of September, 1942. And her fiancé Friedrich Remmer was arrested in his hospital ward 2 months later. On the 18th of January, 1943, the Second Chamber of the Imperial Military Tribunal sentenced both of them, along with 16 other members of the Red Orchestra, to the highest measure of punishment, charging them with the participation in a conspiracy to commit high treason and aiding the enemy. In February 1943, during her imprisonment, Liane wrote, "When you consider how young we are, you cannot believe in death. Sometimes everything seems like a terrible dream, from which I must wake up at any moment. Unfortunately, it is a harsh reality. I never believed before that life could be so difficult." Liane's fiancé Friedrich was executed in May 1943. Their daughter Irina was born in April 1943, while Liane was detained in the women's prison. Perhaps for this reason, both the prosecutor and judge supported Liane's plea for clemency to convert her sentence to imprisonment. However, Adolf Hitler personally rejected the plea request. The death sentence was confirmed by Field Marshal Wilhelm Keitel and countersigned. While waiting for her execution, Liane could only receive visits from clergy and sought solace in Christian faith. She was an Orthodox Christian and a member of the Russian Orthodox Church. Her letters from death row were marked by deep faith. There was no Orthodox priest in the prison, and before her death, Liane received the last sacrament from the hands of a Catholic priest. From her death cell, she handed over her daughter Irina to her mother, Katharina. On the day of her execution, she wrote to her mother, "It is over. Today, when it gets dark, your Lanka will no longer be alive." Liane Berkowitz was 19 years old when on the 5th of August, 1943, 2 days before her 20th birthday, she was beheaded with a guillotine at the Plötzensee prison. 2 months later, her daughter Irina also died under unclear circumstances in hospital. After the war, Liane's mother Katharina struggled with the West German authorities for a modest compensation, but after the death of her daughter and granddaughter, she was a broken woman. She died in 1959 in West Berlin and was buried in the Russian Orthodox Cemetery, also in Berlin. Liane's grim story did not end in her death, since her body was one of the thousands that were delivered to anatomists to be used for dissection and experimentation. Liane was one of 182 people whose corpses were claimed by the anatomy researcher Hermann Stiever, who at that time was a leading anatomist at the University of Berlin. Stiver was particularly interested in the effects of stress and psychological trauma on the female reproductive system. Liane's bravery is honored in Germany to this day. A memorial in her and other resistance fighters' honor was erected in the courtyard of the Berlin Humboldt University on Unter der Linden Boulevard in 1976. Moreover, a plaque commemorating her life is located at Victoria Luise Platz No. 1 in Berlin, Schöneberg. Additionally, in January 2000, a square in the Berlin district of Friedenau was dedicated as Liane Berkowitz Square. Liane Berkowitz's message resonates even today, embodying courage and defiance against oppression. Her legacy inspires people to stand up for justice, resist tyranny, and safeguard democratic values, urging society to remain vigilant against injustice and oppression. There were many tears shed for Liane Berkowitz. Thanks for watching the World History Channel. Be sure to like and subscribe, and click the bell notification icon so you don't miss our next episodes. We thank you, and we'll see you next time on the channel.